Well, as the counting continues in Arizona's largest county, there are more than 400,000 ballots that still have to be counted. And all of that is happening in the tabulation center in downtown Phoenix.
Team 12's William Pitts joins us live from inside the building. William, when can we expect to see more results?
Well, actually, guys, we're expecting to hear an update from county officials here any minute now on this podium behind me here. We're talking about the next batch of ballot results being released sometime, we're told, around 8 o'clock tonight. Right now, we can tell you, though, that the 17,000 ballots that didn't scan on Election Day, those were printed too light for the tabulators to read. They're being processed right now, and they're part of a separate batch of ballots, so they will probably not be included in the batch that's reported tonight. And earlier today, the county issued a statement about the printer issues on Election Day. In short, they say they still don't know what went wrong, but they are working to find out exactly what happened there. Chairman Bill Gates said the printers were tested. They had the exact same settings during the test as they did on Election Day, but they still don't know why some of those ballots printed too light and couldn't be read at some of those polling places. Now, other than those 17,000, they're still counting hundreds of thousands of early ballots right now. Those are ballots that were mailed out but returned in person in the days before the election. And if you remember yesterday, Maricopa County said they had a huge number of early ballots that were dropped off on Election Day. We're talking about 290,000 of them. And that's more than they've ever gotten. It just takes time to verify every single one of those. Now, again, we're waiting for an update from county officials any minute. And actually, here comes County Chairman Bill Gates and the county recorder in just a second, walking up through a sea of cameras right now. And I will jump out of the way as they come up right now.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Somehow we fit all of you in this room today. Thank you for your patience in being here in this room that was not designed to hold this many people, but we appreciate all the interest in Maricopa County elections this year. We know there's a lot of important races and things that everyone is watching across the nation, so we appreciate your time and your patience. Today, I have Chairman of the Board of Supervisors, that is Chairman Bill Gates, and most of you have met him at one point or another. Also, Recorder Stephen Richer with us today to talk a little bit more about numbers and what we've seen, and the number of early ballots also dropped off on Election Day. We hit a record this year, as many of you, and we've discussed with you over the last couple of days. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chairman Gates to say a few words and talk about some of the items we're seeing out there.
Great. Thanks, Fields. Great to see everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Really thrilled to be joined by our partner, Stephen Richer, from the Recorder's Office, our county recorder. At the Board of Supervisors, which I chair, we have 5 of us on the board. Our responsibility within the elections process is for tabulation and for running Election Day operations. So I want to talk about how many votes have already been counted. We've already had over 1.1 million votes counted and recorded here in Maricopa County in the 2022 general election. We have about 400 to 410,000 more to be counted. Now, in the 8 o'clock hour tonight, we're going to be reporting more numbers. But let me be clear, that's 8 o'clock hour. Don't expect it at 8 o'clock, sometime between 8 and 9. That's when we will be seeing our latest reporting numbers. It will be more than the 62,000 last night, but not significantly more. So if you're interested in that, pay attention at the 8 o'clock hour. Why is it taking the amount of time it's taking? A lot of people are talking about this. Well, first of all, it's very standard. This is how things work in Arizona and have for decades. And this is due in part because of mail-in voting, and Recorder Richard's going to talk about that more. But I told this group that we anticipated 95 to 99% of the ballots to be counted by Friday. That's tomorrow. But I'm here to tell you the goalposts have changed, all right? And the reason that the goalposts have changed is because wonderful news, the great participation we had on Election Day. And in particular, we had 290,000 mail-in ballots dropped off at our vote centers on Election Day. That broke the previous record by 70%. So we saw great involvement, and as Recorder Richard can talk about more, there's a process under Arizona law that we have to go through, signature verification, and that takes a while. When those ballots came in on Tuesday, that means that his team couldn't even start until Wednesday. So that's part of why we're seeing those goalposts change a little bit. But we've always told folks that we would be working through this 3-day weekend. Veterans Day is tomorrow. That's a holiday here, but we will be working Friday. We will be working Saturday, and we will be working Sunday to move through these ballots so that we can get through the 400,000 to 410,000 that we're still working on. There were 17,000. We have counted all the votes for people who actually showed up on Election Day and put a ballot into the tabulator. We have about 17,000 left from Election Day. These were the ones that were not read by the tabulator and were put into door 3. We're starting on that tabulation now on that 17,000. Again, that is part of the full 400 to 410,000 amount. Again, to those people who are demanding that we work, that we move faster with the count, I want to be very clear about the work that's already being done by the permanent staff here at Maricopa County Elections. They are already working 14 to 18 hours a day. They are making a great commitment. They knew what they were getting into, but there's a plan that we've already put in place, and that involves them working that many hours in a day. We can't go any further than that. We are doing what we can and still maintaining accuracy. We've heard a lot of people talking about other states recently and the fact that they, allegedly count the ballots faster. And one, for whatever reason, that people love to talk about is Florida. So I just wanted to, Florida's a beautiful state, love Disney World, love going down there, but I just wanted to address a couple things on that to make sure we understand what's going on. We have different laws in the state of Arizona than in Florida. Florida does not allow for mail-in ballots to be dropped off at voting locations on Election Day. So they don't allow it at all. We do. We had 290,000 dropped off here. Also, Florida early voting closes the Sunday before Election Day. In Arizona, we allow for drop-off through and on Election Day. And also, Florida has a shorter period for voters to cure signatures. And it's also very important for us to realize that no county or state is done with counting right now. Well, people say, how could that be? Well, here's the issue. We have so many close races that everyone is still paying attention to Maricopa County. Those other states, like Florida, those races were blowouts. Nobody's paying attention anymore. Again, I don't say this to criticize any other states, but just for people to understand. This is how we do things in Maricopa County. We follow the law. These are the laws that were put in place by the state legislature. And finally, I do just want to say thank you so much as we approach Veterans Day to all those veterans across Maricopa County and our country for all they have done to protect this precious right that we're all enjoying. And with that, I'll turn it back to Fields.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Recorder Richard is here. He's got some numbers to share as well, especially related to those early ballots that were dropped off on Election Day. Recorder?
All right, my name is Stephen Richer. I am the Maricopa County Recorder. I am a board of one, but I work with all 5 members of the Board of Supervisors, and together we partner in elections, as Bill mentioned. I am responsible for voter registration and early voting, and then hand things over. Yesterday, which feels like an eternity ago, I gave you some numbers, and so I want to update you on those numbers. I mentioned that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we had received approximately 86,000 early ballots. So we scanned those in to make sure they all came from valid voters. We made sure that the voter hadn't voted more than once, and then we signature verified all of those, and they went through the audit queue as well in signature verification. Then it goes to a bipartisan team that takes it out of that envelope, make sure that the ballot isn't damaged, make sure that the voter hasn't written in red ink, for instance, and make sure that the voter hasn't, for instance, spilled coffee on the ballot, anything that would disrupt the tabulation process. All of those ballots have now been transferred to the Board of Supervisors, and I believe some of last night's tabulation results. I mentioned that on Monday we received back 52,000 early ballots. All of those have similarly been processed and signature verified and delivered to the Board of Supervisors. Then, as Bill mentioned, we received 292,000 early ballots that were dropped off on Election Day. So we can't begin this process any earlier because those ballots are dropped off at the voting location. They're sealed in their envelopes. We pick them up at the end of the night after all voters have left all the polls. We spent the night organizing them and then getting them ready for that scanning process. We began signature verification yesterday at 7 a.m. and we have already gotten through 250,000 of those signature verifications, which leaves approximately 42,000 signatures to be verified. My team is also responsible for checking the back end on any provisional ballots cast on Election Day. Those are for people who might not have been able to vote or had a discrepancy in their voter profile such that they had to cast a ballot that had to be checked. There were 8,000 of those, which is historically low, but we have gone through all of those and we have determined the status. Additionally, there are 15,000 ballots that are currently in curing status. This is for ballot packets that we have originally marked to be a non-matching signature or no signature. We are in the process of attempting to cure as many of those as possible. We have up until 5 business days after Tuesday Election Day to contact the voter through any means possible, through mail, through phone call, through text, through email, to determine if it was indeed the voter who sent in that ballot. Lastly, Bill mentioned the unique nature of states or the different nature of states that are heavy mail states. So I pulled some additional statistics. Many of our western neighbors are all mail states. Arizona is not an all mail state. You have to request a ballot or you have to be on the active early voting list. That being said, the vast majority of our ballots do come back through that early ballot process for which I'm responsible. In 2020, that number was approximately 91%. In the August 2022 primary, that number was approximately 85%. Looking at some of our all-male western neighbors, Utah is currently at 61% tabulation, Nevada is currently at 83%, Oregon at 73%, Washington at 66%, and California at 46%. So Arizona and Maricopa County are very much consistent with that. We will not compromise the signature verification process and the ballot processing process because that is instrumental to ensuring the integrity of the ballots before they are sent to the board for tabulation. Thanks.
Thank you, Recorder Richard. We'll now get to some questions.
All right, you've just been listening to a live press conference here with Chairman of the Board of Supervisors, Bill Gates, along with County Recorder Stephen Richer. They were basically addressing the issue that so many people have been asking, why is this taking so long for all these ballots to be counted?